hope your Christmas season has gotten off to a great start. It's midweek between Christmas and New Year's. And my name is Deacon Tim Wyman, and I'm here to extend a video invitation. If you're Catholic, or you know someone who's Catholic, but you're away from the church for whatever reason, this is an invitation to consider coming home to the Catholic Church. We have a popular 6-week program that we run here. It's called Catholics Returning Home, and it'll be starting on Wednesday, January the 4th at 7 p.m. right here at the Cathedral Parish. It's the middle of the Christmas season. We're standing here in this beautifully decorated church, but there's people missing from our community, and you may be one of them. And so I wanted to extend this special invitation to you to consider coming home and using Catholics Returning Home as a way to come back and think about, discern a possible return to an active practice of the faith in the life of the Catholic Church. Now, the program itself is 6 weeks in length. We start at 7 o'clock Wednesday nights, and we run for about 2 hours. And it's just a tremendous way to come back and sort of give yourself some time to discern and to really think about your life as a Christian, Catholic. What about the church? Is it worth a second look? That's what the purpose of the program is. And I promise you, you will be welcomed with open arms in a non-judgmental, warm environment, and just given an opportunity to give yourself 6 weeks to honestly look at your life's journey, your faith journey, and to consider that possibility that maybe it's time to come home and come back into the life of the Catholic Church. But you know, rather than hear it about the series from me, about the journey from me, I want to introduce you to 3 of the people that will be on the team if you do decide to come. And I want them to tell their story because they, at one point, were in the same situation you are. They were away from the church after having been born and raised Catholic, and they took another look at the church. They came to Catholics Returning Home, and I want you to hear their story. And then afterwards, I'll come back for a little wrap-up. I'm here today with Jessica Hedren, and Jessica herself is a returned Catholic. Jessica came through the Catholics Returning Home, we were just talking, about 10 years ago or so, and that's not, she said she was in the second group actually. So, and Jessica's on the team. She'll be joining if you come and participate, or a friend of yours comes to participate. Jessica will be there, but I just wanted to spend a few minutes with Jessica and let her kind of share her story of where she's coming from. And so, Jessica, you know, we kind of went through these questions. You're born Catholic, but at some point in your journey, you left the church, or you just drifted, or whatever. So, tell a little bit about that. How did you come to be away from the church?
Well, of course, I grew up Catholic. I was one of those public school CCD Catholic kids.
You grew up in Louisville?
Grew up in the Louisville area where there's a
Catholic
church on every street corner.
Right.
Not so much these days, but when I was growing up back apparently in the Stone Ages, it was like that. Being that I was a little bit disconnected from the church. In CCD classes, I was even bullied a bit by some of the other kids. So it wasn't really a place that I felt like I belonged growing up.
Okay.
So after my confirmation, I was like, I'm done. I'm just going to move on with my life. And
is that 8th grade? What year was that?
It was 8th grade.
Okay.
So basically, high school and on, I fell away from the church. I really didn't feel that pull to go back.
Okay. All right. And so went through high school, college. At what point did something change? What changed to even make you think about making this return trip?
I had reached a point in my life where I had a lot of personal struggles going on. I had some career issues. I had some health issues where I had a mysterious illness that no one knew what was going on, so I went through that. And then at the end of, my house was hit by a tornado. And that was just within the first 5 months of I think 2004.
Okay.
And by the end of 2004, I found out there was going to be an aunt for the first time. And so at that point, I started thinking about, okay, there's something missing in my life to kind of get through all this and to be a better person. So I spent the majority of 2005 trying to figure out what that was. And it was funny because I had some friends who were a part of a non-denominational church here in town, and they kept inviting me to go. So
Right.
I would show up every so often. And of course, when you walk in and you tell them you're Catholic, it's like you're a spotted owl at a PETA convention. Everyone wants to save you. So it's just like weird, like they have radar, right? And what made me sad about it is I could look around the room and just see like the joy that everyone had in the room, but it still didn't really ring true for me personally.
Right.
But I was sad because I didn't feel like I had that, but I wanted that, but I didn't think I could get it there. So I had another friend who was getting ready to join the church due to getting married.
Mm.
And I go, okay, maybe I need to go back. And I happened to see the Catholics Returning Home in a bulletin somewhere. I don't even remember how I saw it.
Right.
But I was like, okay, maybe that's something I should look at. So that's when I said, okay, new year, new me, 2006. Let's give this a try.
a shot.
Yeah,
so
let's
you
give it a
came to Catholics Returning Home,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been told everybody already, it's a 6-week program, and so maybe just kind of give us a quick synopsis of kind of your experience of how that played out for you, and then what happened after that. In other words, the 6 weeks, but then what transpired after that, and kind of where you're at today. So.
Well, it was touch and go at a few moments. I don't know if we had this discussion or not, but I remember you had one of the, I guess, priests from one of the Divine Mercy, or I forget which order he was there from.
Okay.
And so it was really an emotional experience for me, and I wasn't sure at that moment he came in and he started talking about, well, it is the substance, talking about communion and mass, and,
Okay.
and he started going into, well, we're not cannibals, this is and I was just like, okay, I'm not sure I need to be here right now, right? But
Right.
worked through it. I'm like, I need to give this a shot, and at the beginning of it, we've talked about this before. My biggest fear was I didn't know if this was going to work or not. Like,
Right.
there was no plan B for me. I didn't know what
What would
else to
happen
do,
if- yeah.
right? So I stuck it out, and by the end of it, it was a good way for me to kind of actually walk in the doors of the sanctuary in the church. I hadn't done that in years, maybe at a couple of weddings.
Right.
But I didn't even know, I was worried I would get struck by lightning if I just walked in the door, right?
Right.
Because it wasn't my church at the time.
Sure.
I didn't know where the front doors were, how to even walk across the threshold. So
Right.
by the end of it, coming in with the program, you actually walk into the sanctuary. You see the confessionals, you see the altar, you kind of get yourself through the door and thinking, okay, this is not scary anymore.
Right.
I can do this on my own. So after the program, I actually started coming to church, walking in, of course, sitting in the back pew and just kind of, okay, no one's staring at me, no one, there's no like light bulb over my head saying.
You didn't have a scarlet letter.
I didn't have a scarlet letter.
Right.
So it was a good icebreaker. It was a good way for me to kind of reintroduce myself.
Re-entry. So it was
Yeah,
a
it was
re-entry for
re-entry,
you
right.
into the life of the church.
And since then, I've gotten involved in various ministries. I've helped with Catholics Returning Home
Yep.
over the years.
Yep.
I've helped out with the parish council. I've helped out with social ministries.
And so you're still on a journey. I think
yeah.
the 6 weeks. It's we don't finish. It's really a starting point for people to come back. And I've heard you talk about other people. You're still processing. You're still on a journey. You're still learning and so on. So, but again, for the people that are watching, I think it's been a great. Thank you for your shared witness here, because it does tell a story of somebody you were away quite a long time. And for you, it sounded like it was just a great way to refamiliarize yourself with what goes on in the church, even like you say, how to come in and what to do and so on. But then beyond that, to really re-enter that journey of faith that we're all on. So, well, thank you, Jessica, and we're glad to have you on the team, and you'll be part of for anybody that does come. Jessica will be here with the team, and all of us just invite you to, again, come and be a part of Catholics Returning Home. All right. I'm here today with Kevin Donahue, and Kevin is came through Catholics Returning Home, what, about 8 years ago? 7, 8 years ago?
2007. winter.
Just okay. So Kevin's been around. He came through the series, and he's a professor over at the University of Kentucky. And we'll let Kevin kind of tell his own story. So Kevin, if you could just kind of take us back to, you're cradle Catholic, and at some point something took you away from the church. So what was going on, and what took you away from the Catholic Church?
Well, there were several things that were at work. I'm not sure which one was the biggest influence, but they all kind of worked together. My first experience with God was the Mass and my mother's prayer. She prayed a lot. She didn't go to church all the time, but she prayed all the time. So I had this awareness of God, and I was drawn to that. I wanted to go to catechism. I wanted to make my first communion, and so I pushed
Right.
to make that happen. But as I got early adolescence and older, I started to see the church as less and less relevant. This was the 60s. It was a very hopeful time. It was tumultuous, but very
Right.
hopeful. And the church seemed less relevant in all that.
Okay.
They were into doing the Mass, baptisms, weddings, communions, but there seemed to be so much going on that the church didn't have a whole lot of relevance in. So I started to be taken away because
Okay.
of that. And then another thing that drew me away as well was just trying to get my head around a good God, the existence of a good God, because our family had several tragedies along the way, and then with all the bad things happening in the world,
Right.
good things happen to bad people, bad things happen to good people, at least in my
Sure.
adolescent
Yeah.
mind.
Right.
I saw that as a very limiting thing and hard to get my head around a good God. So by the time I was 15, I became an atheist
Okay.
and left the church.
So
Just
you left-
stopped going.
left
God and the church.
And the church,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so you went through, so this was adolescence, as you say. You went to high school, college. Life moves on.
Mhm.
How was what sort of happened to bring you back first, maybe to God, and then the church?
Yeah. Well, being an atheist isn't all that easy either. Sometimes we struggle with faith. Atheism is its own form of faith, which
Yeah.
just lots of things that aren't consistent with that either. And I think by nature I'm a spiritual person, and I was drawn to that in many ways. I realized that without God there wasn't a whole lot of meaning in life, and that made things very empty and barren, and it was hard to live like that. But at the same time, I like I said, I couldn't get my head around a good God. And the church again didn't seem relevant. They didn't seem willing to deal with that. They seemed more concerned about preserving some of their ideas and their traditions. I was just a speck on
Right.
the wall in that
Right.
whole grand equation. But there was a community of faith that seemed concerned about me. Some friends my age who believed in the Bible, they believed in God, and willing to argue. And
Right.
and they seemed to enjoy it as much as I did. So ultimately, I don't think they answered any of my questions about suffering or the goodness
Right.
of God and things like that. But there was something planted inside me where I again sensed this presence of another, this spirituality that I was able then to grab a hold of and believe in God again.
So it sounded like you had a community of people, though, that there was a communal aspect to just being
Yes.
part of a community
Right.
that believed in God, and that was
Yeah.
maybe your first step back.
Right, and that seemed relevant. Right?
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, after that conversion experience, I did go back to the Catholic Church to try to, see how that would help me in my faith. But again, I didn't see it as relevant
Right.
for my faith or my growth. Not a lot of people that I saw had personal relationships. It was a big church, and
Right.
of course I only saw a small part of it.
Right.
And that was my conclusion. So I spent many years, many decades, living as a non-Catholic, but in communities of faith, and grew a lot with that. But then there came a time, I was a big reader. I read some books. Read Bart Ehrman's book, Misquoting Jesus. It was all about how the scriptures formed over the ages, and I realized that a lot of the communities or Bible-based communities would be kind of shocked to find that out, and really the importance of tradition. And so I was kind of drawn again to that continuity that the Catholic Church had of tradition and the Bible together, which was attractive, not enough to make me convert, but certainly get me thinking. Then I started reading Thomas Merton's books, his 7-Story Mountain,
Right.
about actually his faith,
Right.
and his spiritual journey. And that piqued my interest again. I had some friends who returned to Catholicism, which again made me a little jealous. I was surprised to say I felt a little jealous.
Right.
Wow, that they got to return to the church. Because I was pretty well involved in these other communities.
Sure.
But again, there's a level of discontentment. I kind of longed for the fellowship of the saints again, and that in most of these communities was a no-no. You didn't ask a saint
Right.
who had passed on for help or intercession.
Right.
Every funeral and wedding I went to in the Catholic Church, I felt more at home at. So,
So you maybe were rediscovering some roots that had been there, this had been dormant.
Right.
And you were rediscovering.
right, and now I was in my 40s, almost 50s, and I'd gone through, sick relatives and death of good friends and things
Sure,
like that.
sure.
My
Yeah.
career had already accomplished many things that I sort of set out to initially.
Mhm.
And so there was this feeling of lostness again, that the Catholic Church in its vastness, especially with the mysteries, the fellowship of the saints, the sacraments, started to have a draw and appeal. So,
Okay. So how did you discover Catholics Returning Home, and what was that all about for you?
well, my wife kind of sensed something, in me and asked, what would I want to do, religious? And she wasn't Catholic, never was. And I said, well, if I had my druthers, I'd return to the Catholic Church. And it surprised me. She said, well, I'll consider it. And so we decided to go to midnight mass one Christmas, and we walked here to Christ the King. We saw a big sign, Catholics Returning Home, which exactly was where I was at. And I thought, whoa. And this kind of blew my mind from the Catholic experience I had growing up. I mean, that would never cross the
Right.
mind of
Right.
the church to, reach out to those who left. So this made me rethink even the church's attitude. And the fact that I could go somewhere and maybe meet some Catholics who are practicing their faith, and to be able to interact and meet real people, not just read books,
Right.
seemed really attractive. So I called the number and got set up, and there was a group there, many people in my situation.
Mhm.
They asked questions, and I enjoyed interacting with them, as well as the priests and some of the
Right.
people that were participating in that, as well as
Yeah.
leaders.
So you felt like, so your experience with Catholics Returning Home was very interactive and
Yeah. Yeah, and it was great. I mean, everybody seemed to have a good attitude. They weren't trying to make a sale. They
Right.
were honestly there to present information and answer my questions about the church, see what kind of misconceptions we were able to discuss as well.
Mhm.
It was good to get some answers. The bishop even came and spoke during one of the sessions.
And he's coming this time, our current bishop, Bishop John, will be here, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is always a trouble when you're asking people, because well, no matter what group you're in, everybody has different ideas.
Oh, yeah.
But Catholicism, you do have a very defined body of knowledge, and to get answers from people who are well versed in it was
Yeah.
very helpful.
Great, great. And so you went through the 6-week series, and it sounded like it was a very positive experience for you. And then, kind of coming out of that, what's been your arc here since Catholics Returning Home 8 years ago?
Well, like I said, I tell people the first 2 years were great. It was like I was walking on air. Of course, on the honeymoon.
The honeymoon, yes,
right,
that's right.
But the key thing for me to return home was to go to confession. I hadn't done that in over 30 years. So getting people to kind of help, counsel on, so it wouldn't take really long
Right.
to be able to get through that and have it be meaningful. And as a sacrament, it was powerful.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think that kind of
That was a big mountain to get over, though, the
Yeah.
first time, right?
Yeah,
Coming
it
back.
was, and then again, participating in the sacraments, it's been really great. My wife converted to Catholicism, and my daughter was already in another faith community, which I was fine with, but
Right.
she surprised us several years ago and
Yeah.
decided to become Catholic as well.
Yeah.
So,
Well, great. And well, Kevin, thanks for sharing your
Mhm.
mini version of your story here. But Kevin will also be with us on the team. So again, anybody that comes and participates in Catholics Returning Home, Kevin will be there to greet you along with the rest of the team. we're really looking forward to whoever shows up. We'd love to have you come. And as Kevin said, we're not here to make a sale. We're just here because we believe in what the church is about. It's not the perfect, it's got its flaws. We're all sinners. But we're here just to share our joy, our love of the church, and hope you'll come and give the church another look. If you're thinking about it, if somebody's invited you, we're going to love to have you come through those doors, and we'll be there to welcome you. So again, Kevin, thank you so much for
Thank you, Tim.
sharing, and we'll see you guys, whoever comes, Wednesday, January 4th, 7 p.m. here at the Cathedral. Well, now I'm here with Whitney Allen, and Whitney is fairly recent. Whitney came through the Catholics Returning Home series just about a year ago, right?
Yeah.
Was it exactly a year ago, our Winter 2016 series. So Whitney's fairly recently returned to the church, and now she's joined the Catholics Returning Home team, and she'll be here if you decide to come, or somebody you know comes and participates. They'll get a chance to meet Whitney and get to know her a little better as well. So Whitney, thank you for coming in and kind of being willing to share your story. So if you could, maybe just first talk about your, where you were when something took you away from the church, you just drifted away. Where were you at, and what took you away from the church and to get to where you're at today?
Sure. No, it wasn't really anything in particular. It was, I was cradle Catholic in high school and grade school, went to Catholic school. So then I went off to college, and I just kind of fell away. There was
Drifted away.
There wasn't any big event. It was really just a lack of commitment.
Okay, all right. And so this is through your high school and college years, kind of a general.
Mainly college, because I went to Catholic high school. So.
Okay, so you were and fell away through college. Okay, so now you're out of college, you're into your adult life.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? What got you to the point where you were at least asking a question about the church and maybe thinking about coming back?
For me, I never really left. I just stopped practicing. I would come back from time to time. I never had like a big falling out or any major issues. I just wasn't a practicing Catholic anymore.
Okay. Were you practicing any faith at those years that you?
No, I mean I was always with Catholicism. But
Gotcha.
I just wasn't going to mass every Sunday or
Gotcha.
really committing myself to daily prayer or.
So what changed?
Well, I went through 10 years of infertility, and that was a big issue for me, and I struggled with depression, and it got to a point where it was affecting my entire life. And I had no balance. I felt really rudderless. And so when I found the advertisement for Catholics Returning Home, it really spoke to my heart that that's where I needed to go. That needed to be my first step to start to heal myself emotionally and spiritually, and that's what was missing in my life.
Oh, okay. And so you saw the ad and you said, I think I'm going to come. Was that a hard decision for you to say, I'm actually going to come, or did it just?
It was
felt like
scary. I actually thought about it in 2015. I saw it, but it didn't work out. Being able to commit to the 6 weeks, and then I saw it again, 2016, and it was. Yeah, it wasn't necessarily a hard decision to say I was going to do it, but then it was really scary because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know who would be there. I had this fear I'd be the only person there, and then that there'd be 30 people there, and I would be overwhelmed. But it was it worked out to be really perfect.
Great. And so you came through the door, and so just share your experience. What did you experience at Catholics Returning Home, and then from there, kind of where are you at now? How are you doing today?
Sure. It was, for me and where I was and what I needed, it was really the perfect format. It allowed me to discover and rediscover a lot of things that I didn't know or didn't realize or had forgotten. And so each week, for me, it just kind of reinvigorated me and brought me closer back to the church. And that was kind of unexpected. It was kind of surprising that I just had this, each week I just had like a little bit more hunger to learn about the faith and go beyond the catechism that I was given when I was a child. So that was a pleasant surprise. But and then when we ended the 6-week session, I just committed myself that I was going to go to Mass every Sunday and on holy days and just start there.
Right.
And so now I find that I go every Sunday plus at least once a week, sometimes more.
Okay.
And if I don't have daily prayer or if I miss Mass, I get lost.
Feel like something's missing, huh?
Yeah, it's become my compass, and it reminds me very quickly when I'm off course.
Yeah. And you've gotten involved. You reached out to me actually and say, you know, I'd like to help, and you know, that's just one instance of somebody who's you've come back, not only just come back to Mass, but you've actually sort of investing yourself into the life of the church. And I think that's, like you use the word rudderless. I feel like I'm hearing you sort of say you found a rudder that is helping you to stay focused and moving in the right direction. Does that sound like a...
Yeah, definitely. It's being involved on, like you said, just going to church weekly is the first step. But then I really felt like I needed to involve myself a little bit more. And so coming back to Catholics Returning Home is on this side of it. It's been a really nice way to kind of make that transition.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, Whitney, thank you so much for your testimony and your story. And we're looking, both Whitney and I and the rest of the team are looking forward to whoever comes through the door to Catholics Returning Home. We know we're going to be there to welcome you and just accept and journey with you for a few weeks together as you consider possibly returning to the life of the Catholic Church. So again, thank you, Whitney, and we'll see everybody on Wednesday, January the 4th at 7 p.m.
Well, so there you have it. From Jessica, Kevin, and Whitney, 3 past participants in Catholics Returning Home. 3 people who were on a journey and continue to be on a journey, but at some point they found something was missing in their life. Something wasn't complete, something wasn't there that they felt was just missing. And they came back, they made that decision, they came to Catholics Returning Home, and they took the opportunity to really do some active discernment, some active praying, discerning, asking questions, getting questions answered, having discussions. And they made the decision to come on back into the church, as many do who come through Catholics Returning Home. So again, at this time of year, we've just celebrated the incarnation, Jesus come into the world to bring us life, to rescue us from the darkness of sin and death. And for many of you who may be searching, who may be wondering, why is there something missing, or is there's something missing in my life? Maybe it's the Catholic Church, and maybe it's the fullness of the faith that we have here, and we just ask that you give this a chance. Just come and be a part of Catholics Returning Home, and we're not here to twist arms or make sales. We're just here to present the faith and to present a team of people who love the church, who love Jesus Christ, and have found the fullness of faith here in the Catholic Church. And we just want to share that with whoever wants to come through the door. So again, all the series details will be on the page here. We have a website which you'll see. I also wanted to let you know we do have childcare available for those of you that have children between the ages of 0 and 6. We have a nursery. You can bring your children and drop them off while you're in the series. And again, just come and be a part of it, and let the Holy Spirit speak to you through the goings on that will be happening for the 6 weeks. We think you will find it very helpful, healing, and hope-filled. So again, on behalf of the team, I just want to wish you a Merry Christmas, a great Christmas season, and that your new year be full of the joy that the Christ child brings into the world, that it may be yours in the new year to come. So thank you, and I hope to see you at Catholics Returning Home.